What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the 89th edition of the Tuesday Track Talk podcast featuring your Three Stones Picker. I'm your Jack Mankel.
I'm your tire changer Cam.
And I am your gas man, Cam.
And we have quite the episode prepared for you today. So we're going to talk a little sprint car racing out at Husets. We're going to touch on the Cup race at Pocono. A jam-packed episode of news items for the week in terms of a little bit of everything. And then we'll finish out with our Wheelman of the week. So that's kind of what's on tap for the episode. So get comfortable, get ready, and we'll get rocking and rolling. But first, how we been, fellas?
Good. Survived the heat.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I was not able to hit any races this weekend as I had to work, which, depending on how you look at it, might have been a good thing, again, with how hot it was. But I know a few races up here got canceled mainly canceled because of how hot it was going to be.
Yeah, usually we're talking about the H2O that falls from the sky. This time we're talking about just the sheer sunshine that I know on Saturday here it was 95, real feel of 103.
Yeah.
With next to no breeze. So by our standards, that's hot.
Yep.
So yeah. Cam?
No, same thing. Took shelter indoors. Big guy like me, I just walk out and start sweating. So yeah, we got another doozy of an episode lined up here. So excited to get into this one.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into this. We're going to go ahead and start with the World of Outlaw sprint cars out at Husets. Obviously, a very big paying show out there for the Wu Gang. So, Cam, have at her.
All right. So 4 days racing out there. And boy, were they a blast. Yeah, I mean, just about damn near everybody was out there. Unfortunately, Larson could only run the first 2 nights, as obviously he had the NASCAR schedule for Friday and Saturday nights. But coming into this, obviously, Buddy Colfoyd was going to have a big target on his back. He just loves Husets. He runs really well there. And obviously being the former winner of the High Bank Nationals Saturday night show, he was looking to defend his crown for that one. So, obviously, they raced on Thursday night, started off pretty early there. Kyle Larson ended up getting the win for that one. But Buddy kind of showed his chink in the armor a little bit by finishing third in that one. So,
Correct.
But no, again, and starting to set up obviously for everybody on the big one. That night was just a $20,000 to pay race, but everybody obviously was looking forward to Thursday night and then Saturday night. Yep. So I mentioned earlier that Kofoid had a big target on his back, and well, it was justified because he ended up, surprise, he ended up winning both of those races. Won the 100,000 and he won the $250,000 race for that one. Track kind of got slicked off for pretty much the entire weekend. You either had to run the absolute bottom and kind of straddle the curb on the bottom, or you had to run the absolute top. Once it kind of rubbered off or slicked off there about halfway through the race. Lap traffic with such a small bull ring that it is became a huge factor in that one. And actually that hurt Bill Baylog a couple times being up front. He got caught in lap traffic and ended up losing the lead just because he couldn't get around him and dirty air and this, that, and the other. But nonetheless, it still put on great racing. There was a lot of green flag racing too. There weren't very many cautions. And even when there were, they were just single car wrecks, or spins or whatever the case may be. So fairly green, racing for the most part. One of the topics that I want to bring up, and I'm sure you guys saw it on social media this week as well too, especially Saturday night and into Sunday, the run that big Bill Baylog had this week.
Yeah, he talk about having an absolute weekend. He came up shy in the big one, but
Both big ones.
but when you look at where he has been and where the trajectory of that program is headed, uh, he's got that baby pointed in the right direction in a hurry. So he's going to be somebody, if he can keep that momentum rolling, that he could make some noise at some of these bigger events and really find his stride here right in the heart of the racing season where there's a lot going on now. So if he can carry that momentum, we're right in the thick of it now that he could have himself a very good summer.
Yeah. And obviously, he's a Scotty boy. Really, he's an Alaskan boy, but he's a Scotty boy in our hearts, at least in mine. And he took home between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, he took home 100 grand just in that alone. So he showed his speed there. He won the Friday night edition, or no, Thursday night edition of the, um, I think it was the King's Shuffle, is what they called it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
which is huge for him, just the one-on-one showdown there. But again, showed his stuff and still a small time program. He's the crew chief on the car. He makes all the calls. You see him grinding tires and working on tires and small engine package. He doesn't run the big boulders. Obviously, a small team as well. So when you see a guy like that run really good on the national level as a nationally touring guy, I guess for us, you can compare it to like a Kraus situation.
Yep.
Uh, you can't help but feel good about it.
That in a weekend like that with the type of money that he came away with can really help them going into the summer, not only on a performance side, but also if you catch yourself in trouble,
Yep.
um, you have yourself a little bit of a buffer that if you get caught up in something that you can uh, you can find yourself in a spot that it doesn't hurt as much,
Yep.
being a smaller team.
And a weekend like that too, yeah, it just adds to their pocket that they had. I found this stat on the old X machine from Sprint Car Ratings. Pretty good follow if you're looking for sprint car statistics, both wingless and wing sprints. Um, Put out today, win money so far this year, and or I should say just overall money. And Baylog is now fifth. Again, he got 100 grand pretty much this weekend just between his top finishes, but he's sitting fifth right now. Surprise, surprise, Buddy Colford is sitting first with just over a half a mil. Um, so a lot of guys got to do a lot of gaining to do, but you're gonna have the Kings Royal coming up. You're gonna have the Knoxville Nationals coming up. You're
Yep.
gonna have some pretty big races coming up as far as big money races. But yeah, $172,000 is what Bill's got winning so far, and that goes a long ways for that small engine for that small program. So
Yeah. And you look at Buddy Kofoid, let's go back to the Eagle Nationals.
oh yeah.
Started there. That was a $55,000 payday right there. And then he rolls into this. In two feature events, he's north of $300,000.
Yep.
So you talk about just from not only from a winning standpoint, but winning them at the right time. Those are some healthy paychecks that they're going, yeah, we'll take those.
Yep. Unfortunately, these races were only for show points. They were not for race points. So that kind of sucks for Baylog because he could have probably used a little bit of that points to get him up in the rankings. But nonetheless, this is also a good confidence booster too to run as good as he did and be able to carry that momentum. So uh,
Absolutely.
Husets did announce as well that next year they raised the money for that one. I believe Thursday will now be 150K to win, and then Saturday being 300 to win.
Yep.
So raising the money up on that. There's the and then Cam came in with the lovely jab to me of the are they adding more money throughout the field? Which that'll be determined obviously, but nonetheless.
Yep.
So
Yeah, no, I was gonna say um 2 points there. One, it felt like it was the I don't want to say unexpected, but the battle between all weekend Baylog and Kofoid, and I was just gonna throw this out there to you guys. Are we surprised at old DG2 Dave Gravel? Are we surprised he came away from the weekend winless?
A little bit, especially when he is supported by that track in a huge way as it is.
Yep.
He finished fourth on Thursday, or no, sorry, fourth on Wednesday. He finished fourth on Thursday, fourth on Friday, sixth on
Fifth.
Saturday.
Yeah, sixth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, am I surprised? Yes. But also, you could probably argue that Buddy right now is the hottest sprint car driver in the sport.
I was gonna say him and Rico.
Those are the two that are probably the hottest in the sport. And when it's going well, it's going really well. And that might just be the case that everyone is running to the buzzsaw of what is Buddy right now in terms of just they are just that good right now. And they're clicking them off just one after another.
If you want to talk about points real quick, it's Gravel and Colfoyd at the top of the standings right now. Both are Gravel is ahead of Colfoyd by 176 points. I don't know what the point standings in the system is offhand, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. That's I think between Gravel, Colfoyd, and Macedo, I think at least call it halfway through the season. I think that's going to be your championship battle.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think although I still do believe that the championship runs through Gravel in that team.
Yeah.
And that's why don't get me wrong, Buddy's a certified wheelman himself, but yeah, I just feel like Gravel and that team is the top of the top dog. And for myself, I'll be honest, I was a little bit surprised he didn't get one of those big ones. So
Yep.
Yeah.
that's just why I threw that out there.
One thing for you guys too that we kind of forgot about this week. On Thursday, we were going to start the as Cam would call them, the posse, the high limit versus outlaws count. And well, outlaws got the win this weekend with 3-1.
Yeah, for that
Are
first one, that was
you just jacked up or what?
I mean, I'm jacked up for Baylog.
You're a big woo guy.
I'm a big sprint car guy. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, I thought it was gonna be I thought it'd be a little more evenly split amongst the series. You know, when you look at the likes that the high limit brought with them in terms of Rico and Courtney and all the big dogs that
Sweet.
that you just had to think that they were going to hit on something at some point. But like I said, Buddy's the hottest in the biz right now, so they're just clicking them off one at a time.
And Husets is definitely, especially the way that track kind of played out, it was definitely a game of track position. You needed to start up front. You needed to have good prelim nights, i.e. Wednesday and Friday, to kind of set you up in the heat races, which then sets you up for King of the Hill. That's what they called it.
Yeah.
That sets you up for that. And if you started up front, you were stay up front. I mean, looking at just Saturday's race, your top four stayed in the top four.
Yep.
And even then, you want to say your top six, 5 of the top 6 stayed in the top 6, with Logan Schuhart being the odd man out, who surprisingly enough went 13-5 on Saturday night. But again, point stands of starting up front, staying up front. And that's where your prelim nights come into huge play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, say it what you want, but you talk about some of these big shows. You talk about an Eldora, the Flow Racing Night in America there, which you can do it there, but some of these guys that might try something a little bit different to try to get just that extra tenth. It's hard to do. on a show like this where you cannot afford every lap. It doesn't matter whether it's a hot lap, a qualifying lap, a heat race, B main. Every single lap is of the utmost importance, and
Yep.
one driver error, one sometimes you just get caught up in somebody else's mess. Can't afford it, and so I guess with all that being said, just goes to show, like you said, those guys starting up front. Those earlier nights, you can't afford a bad night.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, no, overall, I thought it was a great week. Hopefully Bill can come back next year and have just a stronger run as he did. Maybe hopefully win a couple more. But again, great weekend. Husets is adding more money to the pot for next year as well. Love to see it. So
Yeah, I heard that extra 50K is going straight to the winner.
we'll see how it plays out. That's a whole nother conversation in its own right that we've had before. I'm sure we'll have again in the future, but
Spreading it out amongst the field, straight to the winner.
yeah. But we're getting into the stretch of crown jewel races for these guys. We just finished up obviously this one. We're gonna be hitting the Knoxville Nationals here soon enough. We're gonna be hitting the Kings Royale here soon enough. So
Yep.
getting busy.
Absolutely. Well, if we don't have any other final thoughts, we'll go ahead and jump over to the Cup Series at Pocono. Talk a little Cup Series racing and what was kind of a mixed up day, and it started right with qualifying.
Yep.
You had quite a few guys that had issues. Bubba car didn't start. You had other guys going to the back in terms of making changes. So right out of the gate, you kind of had a mixed up field in terms of guys that were going to be fast and going to have to start at the tail. So right out of the gate, you had a little bit of adversity. William Byron wrecking in qualifying, and it kind of jumbled it all up. And then to even carry it over from there, we got a little rain to start the whole deal. So now we're looking at this going, are we going to be able to get this in before it gets dark? Unfortunately enough, they had about 18,000 jet dryers out on the track to get that baby ready to go.
That one pre-race shot that they had,
Yep.
like 4 wide, 4 deep of those Air Titans. Oh man.
Out of this.
Well, when it's the biggest track as that is, and it's a fairly flat track at that.
Yep. But yeah, so start got delayed a little bit, about 2 hours. But ultimately, once we got into it, it kind of just came down to strategy and fuel mileage, really. You had a few guys that had issues. 2311 was having some brake problems. Bubba blew a rotor. Herbst hit the wall, lost brakes. And then Tyler Reddick also must have, obviously, from a high level of concern, they went in and changed pads. They weren't broken, but changed them. And those cautions kind of shook the field up. And unfortunately for Brad K, one of those cautions was not the death of his day, because the race kind of came back to him a little bit, but the pitting under red was, for a guy that was running up front, finally to see the 6 up front was tough to see.
Yep.
So
yeah, and that did Brad's obviously been trying to get a decent run out of that car here for a while, and he was setting himself for, if it wasn't a race winning day, it was going to be a probably a top 5 running type of day, and shot themselves in the foot, whether it was the spotter, crew chief, Brad, whoever missed the call essentially, and brought him down pit road early. They're going to look back and say, all right, what kind of procedural things do we need to do for this?
Yep.
And Brad took it good too.
Yep.
Showing
Took ownership of it.
His leadership and
yeah, for sure. And then kind of got into it, and from there it was just a game of fuel mileage, ultimately. And when you look at Briscoe finally putting a whole day together, very close,
Almost
wasn't. But again, the burn bar, the old Amazon Prime burn bar in terms of fuel mileage was back. And this was kind of going to be my conversation is with this next gen car is, Denny was trying to push him to get him to run out, but he just couldn't get close enough to really push him super hard. I didn't care for the way that played out. I think the air blocking, dirtying up the air, I think we need to reduce that a little bit to let Brad push him a little harder. And I don't say that from the idea of I didn't want Briscoe to win the race. It's just Brad needs to push. The gap never changed,
Denny.
Or Denny, I'm sorry. Denny. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't necessarily a fan of that in terms of that. Just there wasn't a whole lot of lead changes under green.
Well, I guess so. I'll pose this question to you. So, I guess what are your thoughts on Blaney went to the back and he drove through the field? Byron started in the back. He drove through the field. Brad K was in the front. He got sent to the back and he was working his way through the front or to the front. So,
How much of that, though, would you contribute to having a big pack of cars in front of you and just getting big jumps off of that? And two, just equipment.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look and see where.
If you have a fast car, you're gonna be able to get past, we'll say, the back half. You'll get past the back half of the field, no problem. Plus, when they're jumbled up like that, and the runs that you can get, probably a little bit easier to get some of those passes, which is why those restarts were so important to go too. When you get strung out like you did later in the run, yeah, it's hard to make those runs build and take advantage of somebody almost smacking the wall and cars fighting side by side with each other and stuff like that. So I think it was an issue once you got strung out.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, to your point, Cam, Brad K drove back to 9th. All three RFK cars were in the top 10 again. So that organization's showing that they're collectively can show up, all three of them. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, like when you look at it, you had to know Denny was going to be tough to beat. Probably one of the
favorites to win, hands down.
At this track, probably one of the favorites every time he unloads. At the 11 is any race at Pocono is going to go through the 11.
Yep.
Blaney rebounded to a third. When I kind of look at it and I say struggle lightly, Hendrick was just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like they were like Elliott finished 5th, Larson was 7th, Bowman was 11th. And Byron was 27th. Ooh. They just were kind of there. Kind of a quiet day, especially for guys who are racing for a regular season championship.
When your highest qualifying Hendrick car is 18th,
yeah,
yikes.
I mean, Larson was 7th out of 10 in the first 10 cars out. Like that's very uncharacteristic of Hendrick. So results decent. Outside of Byron, who struggled, but just kind of a middle of the road day.
Yep.
So,
you mentioned the RFK camp. Obviously, Buescher's starting to put together some good races here as well. Priest, obviously, this was a prove yourself type of year for him, and I think he continues to do that. He's showing his worth.
And he's I don't want to say has to do it, but he's 20 to the bad on the cut line. He is the 17th car.
Yep.
So
And
he's by no stretch of the imagination not could be one of those guys that points his way in.
And Briscoe, if you want to get to that point, he's ninth in points currently if you do just straight up points. Priest
Yep.
is 14th. So based off of that, obviously Briscoe first win of the year. You have SVG who snuck in a win. Barry, who is below Priest, also you could say snuck in a win.
Yep.
So that alone shifted the cut line from there.
Yeah, what points are you guys going by?
So he's got the playoff points.
I'm looking at the playoff points.
I'm looking at pure driver points.
Yeah, I'm looking at the playoff points. Because we kind of started to have the conversation a little bit. Do we see more than 16 winners with 9 races left?
That's going to be tough because you're talking.
Yup.
Okay, let's look at the schedule here. There's 2 road course races coming up, which
Yup.
you got to think Dinger could potentially win one of those.
Yup.
You go to Echo Park Speedway, which obviously acts as a super speedway type track. You could see another first time winner there. So there's 2.
Yup. That puts you to 13.
Yep. You've got, so that leaves you Chicago.
And Bowman's won that one.
Or no, sorry. How many races did you say left?
I think you said not. That was 9.
9. Yep, there's 9.
Yeah.
Sorry, so there's 3 road courses then.
Yep. Chicago, Sonoma, and Watkins
Glen. You
Yep.
get Daytona and Echo Park, Atlanta, which are your speedway, your drafting tracks.
Yep.
Richmond, which Joe Gibbs is really good at, so that's a good opportunity for Gibbs to maybe get a win.
Dover,
and then Iowa.
Yeah. It'd be
So
tough.
It's going to be.
Where are you pulling this playoff point list?
I'm on the app. You can go to points and you click playoffs. It's going to be a stretch. It'd be cool to see.
Yep.
It'd be wild to watch a winner go out. But no, I'm just kind of thinking about it in retrospect. When you look at those points, Priest in and around the cutoff, Dinger in and around the cutoff. Eric Jones has been fast lately.
Yep.
I'm not going to say he's going to win a race, but he's found a way to score points.
Dude,
that
Legacy Motor Club in general.
Yep.
I don't want to. I guess I always say I don't.
They're starting to sneak up.
Yeah, and I guess I was gonna say I don't want to say they've been bad, but they like. I feel like maybe John Hunter Nemechek and that crew, like, obviously they cleared house this offseason and kind of started from scratch there. And I feel like, now we're getting, to this midway a little bit past throughout the year. And it's like John Hunter Nemechek qualified up front, finished up front. Eric Jones is he's consistently finding himself in the top 15. And it's like,
Yep.
I would say them and RFK are like the 2 teams that, I don't know if you guys watch any of the Prime, that post race. They had Brad Can there, and he just said they're fighting like heck to be that tier 2 Ford team to tier 1, where it's like now they're, scrapping and fighting to get into the playoffs, to that tier 1 of like, all right, RFK, we're gonna be in the playoffs. How far can we make it? And he said that's what they're fighting like. And I feel like, if Legacy can keep this up, they are on the brink of that tier 2. And then, with John Hunter Nemechek, if he continues this run and builds this experience, they could be they could find themselves in a similar situation as RFK.
Okay, so you talk about those two teams, the Ford team and the Toyota team, kind of trying to make their way into the top tier. When somebody rises, somebody's got to fall.
Yep.
So who do you theoretically think is that fall? I think Toyota is the obvious. You got some Joe Gibbs teams that are going to be the fall at that point. On the Ford camp, I think the obvious one has got to be Penske.
Yeah, I
And
could.
then Logano was your worst finishing Penske car in 16th. Barry was 12th. Cindric was 10th. And Blaney continues to show that he's probably the top running Penske car, obviously finishing third.
Yep.
Then obviously, again, continues he either wrecks or blows up a car or he finishes in the top 10.
Yep. Yeah, I don't. But then, so like even the playoff conversation, you look at cars of recent that are below the cut line that could win races on speed. So Brad K, 31st in points, playoff points. That would shift the cut line in a hurry.
One thing I forgot about, Wisher has -4 playoff points right now because of the penalty.
Yeah, and he's still 38 to the good. Uh-huh.
Actually, I completely forgot about that.
Yep. But like theoretically, let's talk about guys that could win races on speed and or finesse based on their driving abilities or tracks.
Another sneaky one that could come in on Daytona, old Ricky Stenhouse.
My list of guys are going to be Priest,
Rick,
Dinger, Hocevar, Ricky, and Brad K.
Yeah.
That's a stretch, but yeah, Hocevar's 70 to the bad, but he's of late all of a sudden found himself up front all the time. Or starting there, giving himself a shot to stay up front.
somebody else who I think you could throw his name in the mix, and his in the Xfinity series was a road course ringer, and he's getting better as of late, is the old 54 camp
He was decent down in
in,
Mexico.
in Ty Gibbs. And
Yep.
yeah,
That win is coming for him.
Yeah.
Well, it has to, because he's the longest tenured Joe Gibbs drive, most amount of starts in a Joe Gibbs car without a win. So
That's now up to 88 races, by the way.
So yeah, he's got to get it figured out. But yeah, that's another one that he's actually he's been solid as of late, and he's another one that, who's to say, you get to a road course here coming up that he puts that thing up front and he could easily. I think that's somebody that could easily find himself a win, but. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
You got some wild cards in there though.
hold on.
Drivers and tracks.
Yep. But to that, okay, I'm gonna take a look at one more thing here real quick too. Oop, that's not what I want. I want that. So looking at
Juarez.
1, 2, 3, 4, the past 5 races, you've had 4 first-time winners this season.
Do we go to Richmond before the playoffs or no?
Richmond is before the playoffs.
Yep.
All right. Can't count out Austin Dillon then.
Wow.
Well, I don't know that I'd count out the 22 or the 11 in that case then too.
You can't count out Austin Dillon at Daytona either.
Well, correct.
I mean, if you're going down that particular route, he did spin a car for the 500 many years ago.
Yep.
Intentional or not.
And they did just officially hire that guy from Joe Gibbs that was selling them setups last year.
Wild. Just wild.
No, I mean Todd Gillen's another guy that's decent at plate tracks.
I'm not counting Michael McDowell out on road courses.
Nope.
So
I mean,
basically what I'm gathering is we can't count anybody out.
no.
Well,
I still think it's going to be hard stretch to get the 16 winners,
it is.
but
There's a
it's
couple
setting
guys.
up for it.
There's a couple guys I probably could count out, and I'm not. I'll just go on the record and say it. The 41, the 51, and the 35. But plate racing does crazy stuff.
As much as I love them, I'll zap out the 4 car.
The 10.
If I'm going to, there's one race I'm going to count Gregson in for.
Oh boy.
Daytona.
Okay.
I'll throw him in the mix for Daytona.
Just don't let him get in front of Denny.
I'll zap another one out. I'll zap the 7 car out.
Yeah, he's kind of struggled actually.
Yeah.
Trade really.
Again, it's
bait and
it's
switch
setting
last
up
year has
for it.
paid off for him.
Yeah. The bait and switch. Come on.
There's a couple low hanging fruit
but
there. I'm
you go
totally
back to
done zapping off.
Yeah, but you go back to the top, and you're talking about guys that are going to have to beat Larson, Hamlin, Bell, Byron, Blaney, Logano, Briscoe, Cindric, road courses, SVG. Like, you're not going to be able to miss a beat for a single second from green flag to checkers.
Nope.
So, yeah. But ultimately, let's really quick. Let's just run down the results of that race, just as we kind of look ahead a little bit here. Briscoe was your winner. Hamlin second, Blaney third, Busher fourth, Elliott fifth, JHN sixth, Larson seventh, Priest eighth, Brad K ninth, Cindric 10th. And that's your top 10. So, yep. Wild day. Somewhat entertaining to a certain point, somewhat not, but wild in its own right, some may say.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Brad K situation, bringing her down pit road there, that was.
Even without that, you could still be having the same conversation.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was a fun race, to be honest with you.
Yeah, not bad. So, all right. Well, should we go ahead and jump into some news for the week?
Do it.
We've got 3 sections of news
Hold on.
here.
I before we get into that, I don't know if you guys want to touch on, but I think this coming week, we're firing up the old in-season challenge, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
You guys ever take a look at any of that?
I mean, the first
the
round
brackets out.
Yeah, but the matchups are like. Hold on.
I've got it pulled up right now.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up too. So just
like the first round, you got Denny in the 10. Right? Yeah.
Yep. And we're racing. First race here is at Atlanta.
Oh, brother.
Dude, are we really racing Atlanta on Saturday night?
We sure are.
Yep.
Saturday night.
Echo Park. Get it right. Echo Park.
It's Atlanta in my heart, damn it.
But looking at the matchups, so here you go. You got Hamlin and Dillon, Ty Dillon, Kyle Busch, Brad K, Bowman, Logano, ouch. Bubba, Suarez, JHN, Josh Berry, Elliott Dillon, Austin Dillon, Chastain Jones, Seabell and Ricky Stenhouse, Briscoe Gregson, Priest Byron, Blaney Hocevar, Larson Reddick, McDowell Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs, Justin Haley, Zane Smith, Austin Cindric, Busher, and Gilliland to round out your bracket.
Real quick. Blaney and Holsevar is funny because Holsevar spun Blaney at Atlanta.
Yep.
And then you've got Logano, who is a 25 seed out of 30 or out of 32. So Logano, super low seed.
Let's go back to the fact that Chase Elliott didn't know they were racing for $1 million.
Yeah.
So I was bringing that up partially because of that. Does that somewhat diminish what NASCAR is trying to do? Because Larson kind of made a shrugged off a similar comment to this past week as well when they asked him, and he said something along the lines of like, "Oh, yeah, I guess we'll just figure that out next week." Like, I don't know. I feel like this is something new that NASCAR is trying to, whatever. But like, as drivers and teams, I feel like they should be,
Yes,
regardless of how you truly feel. Like, if you're trying to, entertain this and make this more, give the sport more storylines. When you're in front of the camera for 5 minutes, like at least like do your job to promote it. And it's just like a lot of these drivers are just like,
clueless.
we'll figure it out. So I don't know. I guess I shouldn't expect anything less from
Well, I'm just
that
telling you,
one.
there's some interesting matchups here going into a super speedway race.
I'm actually filling out my bracket right now.
All right.
Shouldn't expect to comment anything less from old white wall Chase Elliott there, and him saying he doesn't know anything about it. So
Holy Christ, we
whatever.
got a
I
tsunami outside.
take shelter.
Yep. But yeah, so in season bracket racing for $1 million head to head, week at a time. Winner goes on. So, all right, go ahead and jump into some news. Who's going first?
I'll take the green.
All right, Cam, what do you want?
I'll take the blue.
All right, Dale Jr. Highly noted. And if you have anything to do with racing social media, makes his crew chiefing debut for the 88 at Connors Village. Yeah, they won the race while Marty Lindley was serving his one race suspension. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dale Jr. never crew chiefs a race the rest of his career and says, "Yep, good." You'll wonder.
Sorry, Kyle Busch said it was just for PR. So
Yup.
What a dumb thing to say. It's
and
not the first time he's done something dumb around Dale Jr.
Oh my
yeah, now
God.
he's backtracking it. And he's putting tweets out saying it wasn't a shot at Dale Jr. It was more so he's frustrated that the crew chief got suspended. Whatever, stupid thing to say. We'll just leave it at that.
Yep. Looking ahead to some reports for 2026, it's reported by The Athletic that NASCAR is close to finalizing a deal for a street race at San Diego. So that leaves you with the idea that there will be a race not on the schedule. So they are also exploring options in Philadelphia. So might be a new street race coming for the Cup Series in 2026. Okay.
I'll keep the
What?
comments to myself about going to Philadelphia.
Kaz Gralla returns to the Xfinity Series for Sam Hunt Racing. He'll drive the 24 at the Chicago Street Course, Watkins Glen, and the Roval. So he will be their road course guy for that program. In an absolute shocking development, which no one saw this coming, Rick Ware Racing has decided to countersue Legacy Motor Club. Didn't see that coming. Good Lord. And then last one for me, Australian native Cam Waters will return to the Thor Sport 66 at Lima Rock this weekend. So that's the chunk of intel on the racing side that I've got for the week.
I'll hop in here next. Some Fury race car news. Steve Levitt joins Fury Race Cars, and he comes back as a familiar face, as the original designer of the Fury late model and modified. So, familiar face making a return to Fury Race Cars. Davis Starr announces he will run the Cup Series at Atlanta or Echo Park in the Garage 66 car this coming weekend. So, Davis Starr will be making laps. Yeah, this is we got a two-parter here. I'll save that one for the end, but Will Brown is announced he will run the Chicago Street Race for Colleague Racing. And so Colleague bringing in another road course ace to take on the streets of Chicago. And then we had here two bullet points on it here. And I don't know if we want to really get into it. So I don't want to get the podcast canceled, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr. confirms Tab Boyd was let go by Hayek Motorsports following the Mexico City race, and has caused a little bit of media attention just based on him sharing his experience with the Mexico City race and travel and getting hacked, stolen from, some of that, and just overall not a great experience for him. Put that out on social media and unfortunately was let go following that. So,
Yep.
kind of frustrating. I don't want to get political. Could he have done it in a little bit more professional way? Certainly. Was that a fireable offense? Certainly not. I don't think you can blame him for sharing his experience, and also knowing that his emotions were probably hot. He's probably frustrated, angry, upset. But yeah, by no means I think that was a fireable offense, but is what it is.
Yep.
Finally, a little bit of just oddball news here, along with some lawsuit news. Surprise, surprise. RTGA, Ricky Thornton Jr. will be running a midget car in the BC 39 race at the dirt track at IMS later in July or early in July. Obviously a big sprint car race, 20 grand to win that one. Gonna see a lot of guys enter that one, so that'll be great to see. IndyCar announces innovation for a new car for 2028. Reading through it, some innovations, really the big ones, includes a new chassis update. And then we'll be going from a 2.2 liter engine to a 2.4 liter engine with twin turbo V6 engine. So that's kind of the gist of it. Otherwise, there's some other small aerodynamic modifications or body pieces or updates to already supplied parts from already signed suppliers. But those were the two big updates.
So they're increasing horsepower, huh?
Yep, increase in horsepower. Yeah, I mean that's the gist of it.
You hear that, NASCAR? Carry on.
All right. Some lawsuit news here. We got some more developments in this 2311 front row and NASCAR lawsuit jargon. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So here's what we got so far. 2311 and front row have officially appealed the ruling to overturn the injunction regarding the team holding charters. Basically, they're appealing the injunction that they cannot be a charter team. So they're basically holding out a little bit longer to try and get more money. That's essentially what they're trying to do.
Correct.
23 and 11 have also, the 2311 and Front Row Motorsports motion to dismiss NASCAR's countersuit has been denied. so NASCAR can go forward with their counterclaim against the teams. But it was given that NASCAR's reason for countersuing is in question, so they need more evidence, more information regarding that. Part of that stems from teams giving pushback to NASCAR, asking for financial documents as far as what they do with the charter money and this, that, and the others. So, and this is non or any other teams not involved in the lawsuit as well. So,
Yeah, the only one I did see is that colleague is not involved because they have an agreement with NASCAR already on in terms of certain terms that they had signed with them on some stuff.
sure.
So they're the only ones that are out in the weeds laughing at what's going on.
Which water is getting muckier.
Yeah, it's probably a
I
good
think
spot.
the water's turning into mud, I think, at this
Well,
point.
yeah. That pot is so stirred up you don't even know what's in it.
I'm lost at where we're at.
Well, somebody puts out a statement and the other side puts out the exact counter. So it's like
Yeah.
it's a big joke and runaround. Like
Ultimately, we still have the whole lawsuit to deal with. It's just we have this injunction, we have this counterclaim, and this, that, and the other that's going on too.
teams are basically going after NASCAR to keep their charter money, and then they're going to try to figure it out when they feel like they're in a decent enough spot.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. Over it.
So yeah,
it's and
Like,
like,
golly.
by no means am I a law student or practicing lawyer, but like I guess I kind of like compare this to like the Aaron Rodgers situation. Like as a Packer fan, like those last couple years, is he in? Is he out? Is he retiring? Does he want to play? And you're just like, all right, you're just taken away from the team. Let's move on.
Yep.
But this is the same thing with these damn lawsuits. It's just like
you
we're
just
trying
want
to
to
focus.
race.
Yeah, we're trying to focus on the sport, making the sport better, figuring out tires, how to horsepower, how to make passing easier, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, and you just got this sideshow that produces no good news stories for somebody outside of NASCAR. So you got this little
Yep.
side action that's taken away from what we want to focus on. So it's just getting frustrating to be honest.
Yep. So that wraps up the news for the week. We've kind of got one little bullet point in here, and I'll leave this to you guys if you want to kind of talk about it. But Mark Martin was on the Kenny Wallace podcast, and he just kind of talked about the preferred NASCAR point system. So, where do you want to start?
I haven't listened to the podcast myself. I have yet to listen to it. I want to listen to it. But
Yeah.
I did see somebody post something here the other day. Jeff Gluck basically put out his own poll as well on this.
Yep.
But the gist of it is that there has been 3 different polls, call it this year, as far as what everybody feels like should be the point system. Mark Martin put his poll out, and of the 21,500 votes, 60% said the classic 36 race season point standings.
What did you guys vote?
I voted on Gluck's. I didn't vote on Mark Martin's.
I don't know. If I'm torn between the 10 race chase and the 36 race format.
So transparently, here's the thing. I voted the 36 point
What?
or 36 race. So that's what I voted for.
Okay. Why?
But then I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, wouldn't be a whole lot of fun here coming down the stretch when Larson's got this in the bag here going into September. It's like, all right, we got 2 months of racing and Larson's got this thing in the bag. So
Can
I don't
hand him
have
the
to worry.
trophy in the middle of
Yeah,
September.
can hand him the trophy in September and we can start looking to Daytona for the next year. So
Well, here's the
I
thing.
originally voted that, but then at second thought, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. We got to have some sort of. Every other sport has it, some sort of playoff format. Like I feel like there's got to be a regular season and a playoffs. Just yeah, I don't know.
I voted, so this is on Gluck's poll. I voted for the 10 race chase. Here's where it currently stands on 30,000 votes on Gluck's. Current format was 8%. The 10 race chase was 28%. All 36 races was 53%. And then an other modified, basically a comment your own, was 11%. So 11% of people had a better idea than what we're currently doing.
So I was torn between the two. I was leaning towards the 10 race chase format. And I went back into my notes here and I found what I was looking for. So because I know that we had discussed this in the
brother.
past.
Yep.
I forget what episode, but I'm sure we talked about this in a previous episode. So if you want more info, but the gist of it was I took the 22, 23, and 24 final 10 races. I stuck with I kept the stage points, but I did the final 10 races and I mathed it all out. For the past two of those 3 years, the points championship came down to within 10 points.
Okay.
1 year it was 3 points for a difference. Actually, it might have been within 5. 1 year it was within 3 points. Oop, I gotta go the other way. 1 year it was a 30-point difference. And then another year it was a 2-point difference. So you have that literally down to the last race of the year.
Episode 60, I believe.
Got it.
I believe it's episode 60 that would give you insight in terms of yep, episode 60 presents to you all of our 7 months ago we predicted or wanted our own proposed systems, some type of combination or course of any of those. So
Sure. So there's your answer there. But so I would have gone with the 10 race for it because I still feel like you get your drivers that deserve to be in the championship race, but throughout that process, you eliminate the guys that aren't going to be in it. And it makes that playoff run mean so much more.
yeah, it's so much more intense.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still think you get that intensity.
Yeah.
In the playoff. And if you have a phenomenal playoff run, okay, you win the championship by 30 points.
Yep.
But you don't get it's going to be a lot harder to have that clinched before you go into that final race. And it still makes that final race, okay, I at least need to finish this race.
Yep.
So I would have gone the 10 race format. Yes, is the 36 race the traditional format that every other short track here in the country runs? Absolutely. But I still think you get the intensity out of the chase format.
Yep. So lots of conversation on that. That will forever be a conversation around wanting change for the good or for the bad. Take it or leave it. Do what you want with it. But
if you're curious, if you actually want to really keep track of it, the drivers' point standings, if you want to stick with this current format, Byron currently has a 54-point lead, which is almost a race lead on the points.
Correct.
He's 7 points away from a full race lead. So, second place is 78 behind, or no, sorry, third place is 78 behind, fourth is 79, fifth is 80, and then sixth is 120.
Yep.
So take that for what you feel like it's worth.
Yep. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into our Wheelman of the Week. We've got a few nominees here. Kind of another week that I feel like we have one or two that really stand out, and some that could be a very well sleeper to win this whole deal yet. So let's just go ahead and run through the list. We've got just a handful. Dalton Zier dominates the Midwest Tour race in their return to Norway for the first time since 2015. It's been highly noted that Dalton did a lot of racing up there when he was working for Gene Coleman. So comes on up and dominates a tour race. Buddy Kofoid continues his dominant streak that we had talked about. He won 2 nights at Husets. As we mentioned, winning the Eagle Nationals with a high limit. So he's north of $300,000 already in winnings in just a handful of races. Jonathan Davenport finally knocks off another bucket list. He wins the Firecracker at Lernerville on Saturday night. It was noted that those 2 nights leading up to that event were rained out. So he continues his hot streak coming off of the World 100. Clay Kurtz wins the Midwest Truck Series race at Marshfield. So good little race up there. He finds himself in victory lane. And then Justin Grant has a great Eastern Storm week for the USAC, and he wins 3 times on that week. So honorable mention, Bill Baylog has a great 4-day stretch, 7th, the second to win in the second. So kind of lurking in the waters in terms of maybe a second sleeper. But I feel like this is going to be pretty indecisive. So I'll kick it to you guys. Where are you going?
I have a definitive one. I had my mind made up before we started the episode. I had my mind made up yesterday on this. I am going with Buddy Kofoid.
I'm going Buddy as well. Just dominant across the weekend when the stakes were the biggest and the highest. And yeah, certified wheelman, getting the job done up front all weekend, cashing big checks, and yeah, you could say hottest driver in the business right now.
Yeah, I was going to also go Buddy, to be honest. It was unanimous. I wasn't sure where you guys are at. My close second would have been Davenport finally knocking off the Firecracker on his list.
I probably would have gone with Justin Grant then. Winning 3 races on a dominant race week. 3 out of 6 really is what he went.
Yep.
So
yeah, Davenport is 1 crown jewel from having all of the crown jewels in dirt late model racing.
Which ones do you need?
Oh,
I think he needs Dirt Track World Championship.
Yes, I believe so. He's won one race from the bucket being collected. So he'll get one. It's at Eldora. Who are we kidding? So, all right, Buddy Kofoid, Wheelman of the Week, obviously deservedly so in terms of the tear he's been on. So, in terms of race previews, we're really not going to touch on too many of them. We've posted the schedules already on our social media, so if you haven't seen them, go check them out. It's got a little bit of everything. You want sprint cars, you got sprint cars. You want asphalt late models, you got them. You got dirt late models, you got them. You got midgets, you got them. We have quite the array of racing for the weekend. So go ahead and check those out. And those have dates and streaming services and all the goodies on there as well. So, and kind of the last little brief of the week, we have our race picks and race standings updates. So we gained a little ground on the old gas man, but
the eye test doesn't
show it.
Yeah. We're still I am in second, and I'm still 151 points back.
Yeah, that is correct. So,
and unfortunately, the gas man gets to pick first this week.
Yeah, I know. That also means there's a lot on the board that he could confuse himself with.
I need a little bit of that analysis or paralysis by analysis here.
Yep.
You going first?
Yeah.
You finished. He's already paralyzed.
Yeah, you had Reddick who was in the garage changing brakes, dude.
Thought somebody else would have shot a foul ball off as well with me.
Dude, my guy finished second, so it was not me.
I finished third.
Yeah. We got. I know he's Googling right now. He's Googling
No,
the Atlanta race results.
Yeah,
No,
he's got
is
his
that-
whatever website that he's gone to
and
here recently.
yeah, no, I'm gonna go just because we can play with fire at this point in the year. We've got a lead, and so we can go. We can,
Oh yeah.
yeah, we can mess around. Top right of the graph, as one would say. But over the last 3 races at Atlanta, he's got an average finish of third. So give me the 12 team. Give me Ryan Blaney.
God
Oh.
damn it. I hate you. I
thought
hate
you
you
were
so
going
much.
somewhere else. I thought you were going another direction, doing the
Dude,
FAFO.
come on. And it's a super speedway. You know, we're either winning or we're damn near going to the hospital. So that is going to keep me
If
on the
I'm
edge of
being
my
honest,
seat on a Saturday night.
to be honest, you know who I was thinking you were going to pick?
Who?
Mi amigo.
No,
He won
wasn't
the
even
race
at
in
the.
February last year, and he finished second in the fall race.
Yeah, no, I still don't. I don't trust him at all.
Don't
My
trust him.
my next shot was going to be Byron. I just feel like Byron is always outside of struggling this past week. He's always a safe bet. He's never going to beat himself. So
True. All right, we got.
I'm sticking in the Penske camp for this one. Give me Cendric.
Oh, well, because my research is really good too. I'm looking at this results from last year. You left me the winner. You left me second place. You left me fourth place. You left me fifth place. He scored a lot of points, so I'm gonna kind of bank on that helping me a little bit. I'm gonna do a little more analytical pick here. Give me Bowman.
Right.
So
I
yeah.
do want to point out that
He's
Cindric
the
was
equivalent.
leading that race before he got wrecked.
Well, yeah, you couldn't pick the 12, so you had to pick the 2.
Correct. I got to pick the other guy that typically does decent or wrecks.
Fair.
Dude, telling that Bowman pick, that's right up top with me and Blaney. He's checkers or hospital as well.
Yikes.
that could be a new graphic or who gets that one at the winter racing awards show.
Checkers or wreckers.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, Blaney's got that one wrapped up.
I mean, dude.
But well, there you go. There's a couple race picks for Atlanta. Be keeping an eye on that. If you haven't seen the schedule, they're racing Saturday night, so you won't have your traditional Cup Series race on Sunday. So, as we wrap up, as always, if you can get to your local racetrack, short track, big track, whatever it is, if you can get there, make sure to get your butt in the seat, and make sure that those racetracks are around and healthy, as we always say. So, like to keep them going and supporting them, and letting guys race that love to race. So, make sure you support your local short tracks. Other than that, this has wrapped up a wild episode. We referenced our episode 60 with our NASCAR picks or a playoff format. So if you're looking to see what comes of it, go take a gander at it. They're all segmented out. So you can click right in there and listen to a little bit, and away you go. So, well, that wraps it up. another episode of the Tuesday Track Talk. But until then, we'll see you all next week.